Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau. Marie Maher called me and said, we'd love to have an interview about the Big Sing. And I said, who's your best singer and your best historian? And she said, Alan Calavano. I said, wonderful. I wanted to talk with him on camera again after all these years for a long time. So here we are, Alan Calavano, retired from IBM, and he puts whole new meaning into the word retired, right? You haven't stopped working an hour.
There's lots to do, that's for sure. And thanks for having me on your show, by the way.
So of your many endeavors, what's your most important one?
Well, for the last month at least, it's been getting ready for this Big Sing, which is a celebration of the Rochester Mills Chorus's 85th anniversary.
That's 85 years.
Right.
That's older than both of us.
Almost combined. The chorus was formed in 1930 by Harold Cook, who was known as Rochester's music ambassador. And I unfortunately didn't know Harold. He had passed away before I came to Rochester. But he was instrumental in starting the Mill Chorus, the Boy Choir, the Symphony. He was the first executive director of the Rochester Civic Music Program. So he did a lot, but he really put his heart and soul into the Mill Chorus.
I sang for him years and years ago before you came to town with the chorale. Was the
Right.
So Harold Cook started it, and who succeeded him?
After Harold was Don Fiscum from Plainview, and we've had only, I think in our history, we've only had 5 or 6 directors. They tend to stick around for quite a while. Dave Drigg was a director. Our current director is Joel Blair, who up until recently was a music director at Homestead Church. We've varied in size from, I guess, as small as 20 to as large as 50 or 55. We've currently got about 30, 35 guys.
Good singers, too. I've heard them.
Quite a range of ages. Fortunately, we've picked up 4 or 5 nice young guys to replace the older gentlemen who are retiring. But we do have 2 guys, as I mentioned before, who have been in the chorus for more than 50 years. Jim John and I've gone blank, Jerry Monahan.
And some of your newer ones used to sing in Laganda.
Yes.
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 Raul and
Mark.
Yep. So you've got really good singers. Now on the 11th of April, which is a week from next Saturday.
Yes.
You're going to tell us about it.
Well, it's called the Big Sing, and the reason it's called the Big Sing is that there'll be 10 other choruses joining us. The Male Chorus is part of a group called the Associated Male Choruses of America, AMCA. And these other 10 choruses are also members of the AMCA, and they'll be coming from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and one from Jamestown, North Dakota. And we're going to put on a big concert. The last time we did the Big Sing in Rochester, we were on together then. That was in 2005. That was our 75th anniversary. There will be just under 300 singers, and half the concert approximately will be all the singers singing together on songs we've all learned. And then there will be 5 or 6 solo choruses, individual choruses that'll solo on the particular number that they've learned.
And it's in the Civic Auditorium.
It is. It's in the arena.
Yep.
It starts at 7 o'clock. We can get into where to get tickets, but basically they're available from the Civic Center box office, from any of the Male Chorus members. You can also get them to Ticketmaster if you so choose. The box office is actually moved now. They're over by the Civic Theater in preparation for some of the construction that's going to take place. Robin Wolfram from KTTC is going to be the master of ceremonies. That should be fun.
Should get her to sing. She sings.
We'll see. We'll see how that works out. This one is kind of devoted to male singing, but maybe at a future concert we can have. I understand Robin sings very well.
Okay, so what time does it start?
7 o'clock.
Now, are you going to do anything else special? You're going to have a cake? I mean, 85 years is huge.
Probably not at this concert, but it'll be the 85th anniversary through our Christmas concert, so we may do something in December when we have our Christmas concert.
Well, tell us what the mayor is going to do.
Oh, the mayor is going to, this coming Friday, if anybody's available, at 9:30 at the City Hall, which is being renovated. You have to kind of come in through a funny door, but if you have a chance, come down to the Mayor's Rotunda. I don't think that's the official name, but that's what I call it. And Mayor Brady is going to declare, starting, I think it's Monday through Sunday, Rochester Mill Chorus Week in commemoration of our 85th anniversary. And he's going to give a proclamation, and there will be cake and coffee there. So if that's your inclination, come on Friday.
No, now are you going to do any other concerts during the week?
No, this year basically it'll be the Saturday concert. But as I say, we'll have other concerts in the fall. We usually sing on a float during Rochester Fest Parade, which is following a new route this year. We have in the past sung on the Eagles Telethon. We also sing at weddings and parties and funerals and pretty much anybody that will have us.
You know how our patients would love to hear the male chorus.
We have sung in the Gonda building, not recently, but on the steps of the Gonda building we sang, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, you'll have to do that again.
We'd certainly go back if they invited us. The Post Bulletin had a school children insert where they had the school children design ads, and one of the two ads we submitted was on the cover of that, and if we can pull it together, we'd like to go and sing for the class that the student is in who designed the winning ad, if we get a chance. We may do that Friday too, we'll see.
That's great. Anything else? We'll review that before we go, the time and
Sure.
the site and where they can get tickets. So,
Okay.
So the last time you and I worked together, it was on a postcard goose.
Oh, yes.
For the
yes.
History Center when
That's
we
right.
did the goose is loose, they said, or something.
I think that's what it was called. It was the Arts Council fundraising project, and those geese are still out there. I've kidded Barry Amadio. They should have a "Where Are They Now" contest. They're still out there, but a lot of them have moved. There's a couple of them that wound up in the Skyway.
Well, we really did that with your idea from your book, your postcard series that he wrote. It's got all the old places in Rochester from postcards, and it's fascinating. And
Well, the funny thing is, as I recall, there are 200 postcard images in the book, and we thought that would be plenty, but I think we wound up using over 400 images.
we did.
And Jane's being very modest. She and her daughter, what they did is they printed the postcard images on bumper sticker stock, which was pre-glued. But in a lot of cases, the curvature was so extreme that wasn't even enough stick-em. They had to actually glue them down.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's out in the lobby of the History Center with
Yeah.
400 plus postcards glued to
Did
it.
you do more than one book?
No, so far I've just done one. They've asked me a couple times if I want to write another one, and I don't know. I thought I had that one about half, 3/4 done when I agreed to do it, but when I actually sat down to write, it was more like a third. So then I had made a commitment to have it done by a certain date, and it was a huge amount of work to get it finished. So that kind of left I won't say a bad taste, but it left me realizing how much work it is to do, and I don't know if I would do another one or not. I may. I've been gradually collecting stuff that isn't in this book, and I tried to avoid Ted St. Main's book as well. I didn't want to duplicate anything that was already out there. So it got more and more limiting. But I've started to collect quite a few things. A good friend of mine, Cindy Scott, does the Lens on History that's in the Post Bulletin once a week. And through that and some other research out of the History Center, we're starting to accumulate a file that is, quote, new history, new in the sense that it's not documented. So maybe.
How do you feel about the historic preservation movement that has gained a great deal of new energy and enthusiasm and still is working its way into how they're going to do it?
I think that's it. The devil's in the details. I'm really pleased that they're going to be able to save the Chateau Theater. That would have been a tremendous loss. I think losing Barnes & Noble was a pretty big loss. I mean, that was an excellent application for it. And I give them a lot of credit for how they treated the building.
Yeah.
And just the fact that their second floor is a table and doesn't detract from the walls so that it can be removed. But it's going to take quite a bit of money to turn that back into a movie theater. if that's what they opt to do or whatever they think they want to do with it.
Well, I've heard a lot of performing arts, some for a gallery, and
Right.
but there's so many organizations that want to be in it that there
Right.
would be room for the movie theater.
Actually, I had hopes that the old armory, now that the senior center is moving out, could be turned into some kind of conservatory where the nonprofit groups could have offices. There's a stage upstairs, there's a cafeteria downstairs, the offices are already set up. And I'm not sure what the plans are for that, but that would be something like the Landmark Center up in St. Paul.
I hear the Children's Museum is very interested.
I'm sure they are.
As are a lot of other organizations.
Right.
Well, there probably isn't enough money to do all this, but we got to figure it out.
Ultimately, it comes down to finding the money and something productive to use it for. And it's most likely not going to be self-supporting, whatever they do with it. It's really hard. I think probably the most likely income-generating use for the Chateau Theater would be to turn it back into a movie theater.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Okay. Now, did you spend time working for the History Center other than your book?
Just as a volunteer.
Don't say just as a volunteer. They make the world go round.
Right. I guess they call us non-paid staff. To me, it's kind of like a treasure hunt. Every time I go back into the archives, half the time I go back there looking for something, and by the time I get through, I forgot what I was looking for because I find 4 other things that I was looking for last week or didn't know exist. So it's like a treasure hunt to go back there.
Are they improving their ability to keep track of what they have in their sheds?
They are.
That have been given to them?
No, I primarily work with paper objects, and I know they're doing a lot to get that under better control. They're scanning a lot of things, they're indexing a lot of things. But believe it or not, there are still things back in the archives that have not been looked at since they were donated. I mean, it's just a huge amount of work categorizing everything, locating it. Another friend of mine is looking through, there are a lot of photographs where we only have negatives. So short of holding it up to a light and trying to guess what's in it, you don't really know what's there. So this gentleman is scanning a lot of those and trying to identify things that are in them, like they're filed under street scenes, but in fact, there's 6 different businesses and different cars and stuff that you might potentially be looking for, but it's not categorized that way, so you'd never find them.
Yeah. So are these all survivable? All this emphasis on history and preservation, you think that the generations that are coming put the same amount of value on these efforts?
In fairness, I don't think I put a lot of effort in that stuff when I was younger. So I'm hoping as they grow older, they will, because that's kind of their heritage too. I think that might be something that comes with time. I wouldn't call it wisdom, but appreciation for the past. Hopefully some wisdom too, but you can't count on that. I don't know, they're so electronically oriented, it's really hard to say if they'll ever appreciate tactile, physical objects.
Okay, let's get back to the male chorus.
Yes.
Which is the funniest experience you've had while singing with the male chorus?
My goodness, that's a tough one. Well, back when money was a little more readily available and things didn't cost so much, the chorus would typically take trips someplace. Actually, Harold was very good at that, Harold Cook. He had a lot of contacts. Like one year, the male chorus sang on Palm Sunday in the White House, and that was through Harold's connections. Actually, Mayor Schmetka was a big fan of the chorus as well, and I think he went on that trip, if I'm not mistaken. But Harold had the ability to get the chorus invited places, and once they were invited, then they were motivated to try and raise the money to pull it off. Like they went to the Cotton Bowl one year to sing the national anthem, and they took several trips to Chicago, they went to Seattle. Since I've been in the chorus, we did take a trip to England. We went to England, Wales, and Scotland. But that's, when you're taking 30 or 40 people plus their wives, that's a huge expense anymore. I mean, you're talking $30,000, $40,000 or more. So we haven't really had the chance to do that. But that's a real bonding experience when a group of people can go off like that and do something together. We do feel that a little bit when we go to a big sing someplace else. We're away for the weekend at least. And I should explain that the Big Sing is held every year, but it's been 10 years since it was held in Rochester. The last time was in 2005. We did a show then, actually. So it's a big deal for Rochester because it hasn't been here in 10 years.
To have all of these choruses here.
Right.
They come with their wives and spend the
Quite a
weekend.
few wives, right?
Do you have some other events scheduled?
There are some things like during the morning there are seminars to talk about taking care of your voice as you age, getting grants. I should mention that we did receive a nice grant from the Southeast Minnesota Arts Council in support of the concert, and we very much appreciate that through the Legacy Amendment. We did also get a grant from the Carl and Verna Schmidt Foundation, which is also very much appreciated. But there are seminars. We spend the afternoon practicing. There are some other performances within the groups for one another, basically. And the wives have a luncheon. There is kind of like a cast party after the concert called the Afterglow, which is a term borrowed, I think, from the barbershoppers. So yeah, it'll be a full day. They'll earn their keep.
But the public is invited to that evening big sing
Right.
in the arena.
In the arena.
So that'll be full.
I hope so. I mean, that's a big place. I don't think we'll have 7,000 people, but I'm hoping we'll have 1,200 or 1,500.
You never know.
Oh, that would be fantastic. If we had 7,000, I'd be overjoyed.
Okay, as a historian, a musician, an author, a philanthropist, what do you think about DMC?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm only superficially aware of what they're planning. I approve of the concept. I've tried to stay out of the implementation because it was pretty complicated, and quite frankly, they're not going to ask me. They're going to do what they think is in the best interest of the city.
Well, if you're like me, I'm probably not going to see the end of the 20-year plan.
No, I'm sure we won't. There's some things that have to be worked out. I guess on one of the plans, the library wasn't there anymore. Little details like that. I think you have to be constantly renewing yourself, although quite selfishly, I liked Rochester the way it was when I came back in 1976, and it's completely transformed. I tell people from out of town that about every 10 years, Rochester goes through a crane boom, where there are cranes all over the place and all kinds of construction going on, and I think we're entering one of those now. I can remember going through that with the Galleria and several times before that, and I think once the university gets into full swing, that whole southern part of the town will turn into something completely different. I don't know what's going to happen downtown. I think this whole area by the auditorium is going to have to change in some respect. I think they're even talking about moving the river, aren't they? I don't honestly know.
I haven't heard that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they paved over the river. There is a sore need for a acoustically capable concert hall. With all of the stuff we've got in the auditorium, if you want to do an acoustically competent concert, you go to Lourdes High School, you go to Autumn Ridge, you go to Bethel Lutheran.
Or the Gonda, which has perfect acoustics.
Right, although that's hard to, the access to the Gonda is pretty limited for concerts. But there isn't a concert hall in the auditorium, and I think that's a huge loss. And as many times as they renovated the presentation hall, I don't think they can turn that into a concert hall, quite frankly. Possibly the Chateau Theater, its biggest limitation is the stage, and of course the seating isn't there anymore. Whether they can modify that back into an acoustically sound concert hall, or if it ever was, I'm not sure. It's very pretty, but I don't know about the acoustics. It was really designed for a dance hall, vaudeville movie theater sort of environment.
The only thing I've heard is the proposal of one with a thrust stage out over the river, a building of its own behind the Civic Center.
Uh-huh.
But that's a lot of money too.
Right, that would almost have to be over the river. There is that lot north of where the bank is, north of the Civic Center, and there's that lot south of the Civic Center where that building's on stilts. Whether either one of, now, quite frankly, with the expansion of the Civic Center, I think they're going to need more parking, and those two locations might be better suited for parking. Rochester has more parking ramps and parking lots than any city I've ever been in my life. I think, I was going to calculate it one time, but I wouldn't be surprised if 30% of downtown is devoted to parking, which is really weird. I mean, I don't know of any place else like that.
Being a resident I have no idea how many there are. There are never enough.
I've never
right?
been to one that had more parking.
The Rosie Bell. What do you think of that? This woman had a dream that that would be a performing arts center. Right. And it never quite got off the ground, but it's still there.
The building is still there. I'm surprised it hasn't fallen down or burned down. In fact, I thought they had given them an ultimatum at some point, but I guess that came and went. I'm not sure. I don't think it serves the purpose of most of the larger organizations, unfortunately.
Yeah. It'll be right in the middle of the UMR
right.
effort, their Northrop or whatever you call it.
Right. Yeah, I guess I haven't kept touch with that either.
Okay.
But we have saved some things. I mean, I give the clinic a lot of credit for the condition that the Plummer building's in. I mean, they've spent a lot of money on that. I can't believe they'd ever take that down.
Which one?
The Plummer building.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a wonderful building. And Daisy Plummer loved the male chorus. Mm-hmm. She used to have the male chorus over at least at holidays, if not
right.
more often, in her living room, right?
And they would sing out at Mayowood as well. Yeah. I missed out on that, unfortunately. That was before I joined in '76. But yeah, that was a
lots of stories there.
I wish I had known Harold. I wish I had gotten to perform out at Mayowood and some of those other places.
All right. What year did you retire from IBM?
I retired from IBM in 1998.
Okay, it's a different company now, isn't it?
I've kind of lost touch with that too. Yeah, I've only been out there once or twice, and I didn't even know what they're doing anymore. But hopefully they'll keep the stock at a moderate price.
Let's just talk briefly about your newest project. And
which one is that?
The bell and the clock.
Well, for a long time I've wanted to make sure that unfortunately the bell tower over by the Civic Center is in the way. And I really wanted to make sure that that clock didn't get lost in the commotion. And as far as I know, it's being safely stored, and I feel good for that. I'd like to see it put back someplace, and I guess there's some things in the process for that. A lot of people
tell our viewers where it came from.
Yeah, that clock was originally in the middle of Broadway, just south of the Riverside building. And the reason it could be in the middle of the street is because Broadway ended at the fire station. There was no bridge across the river, so there was no way to go any
I wondered
further
how
south.
that landed
Right.
in the middle of the street.
And actually, it was in the middle of the street because it was originally designed to put out fires in the businesses downtown. They actually pumped water out of the river, so it was a good location for them. I can't remember exactly when, but I think it may have been since I've been here, they decided to expand Broadway South. So then they moved the fire station to the west side of Broadway. And then that fire station has more recently been replaced by the one that's there now. And at that point, they tore down the old fire station, and initially they moved the clock and the bell to the tower that's on First Avenue by what had been the First National Bank. Chief Mertz, well, let me back up a second. Initially, the bell was put in storage and lost. Nobody knew what happened to it. And Chief Mertz, who was the fire chief at the time, was motivated to find that clock and restore it someplace, and he looked everywhere, and he finally found it in storage, and it was pretty significantly damaged. Quite a bit of restoration had to be done. And he was the one that saw to it that it got put in the tower, the new tower on First Avenue, where the First National Bank building was. Now I guess it's U.S. Bank, I'm not sure which bank. Anyway, and then along the line, John Withers was the president of the park board, and he had, I think the bank wanted to get rid of it for some reason, so he had the tower erected over by the Civic Center, where it's been up until recently. Now that they're expanding the Civic Center, that wasn't going to work anymore. So I did help to make sure, I didn't do a whole lot except to make sure it happened, but some really dependable volunteers who have been maintaining the clock saw to it that it was taken down and put into storage. Now I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost in storage. I'm concerned that out of sight, out of mind, you know.
If you had a place that you'd put it, where would it be?
Well, to me, it would make sense to put it on the corner of Broadway and 6th Street. Close,
that's where the...
pretty close to where it was before. That's fire station number 1. It's a four-sided clock, and where it is at the Civic Center, you can only see one of the four faces. So on that corner, you could see it from all four directions. They could presumably start ringing the bell again. The bell is functional. It's just that where it is at the Civic Center, it's about 10 feet away from those conference rooms. And when the bell would ring, it would blow you right out of the conference room. So they actually wedged a piece of wood in there to keep it from ringing. There was nothing to keep it from ringing except for the fact that it was too annoying. But I guess it seems like they could have seen that coming.
There's some tile in the fire station one that look very, very old. I wonder if they aren't from the original.
I wouldn't be surprised. I do know that they saved the brass fireman's pole that was in the original fire station, and they moved that to the recently replaced fire station. So it's moved twice now, and it's in the current fire station number 1. They actually cut it in half because it was too long. And I think there might be two shorter fire poles, but they're from the original fire pole from the central fire station. What's funny, I thought I'd always been telling people that fire pole was in there, but I'd never actually seen it. So I went over someday and knocked on the door, and sure enough, it's there. The only difference is OSHA had them put a railing around the hole because they didn't want anybody falling into the hole. I mean, now we're talking about firemen that are going to slide down the pole, but they put a railing around it so they wouldn't fall in the hole, which seemed kind of inconsistent. But that seems like the logical place to put it. And then not only would it have greater visibility, but it would be back with the fire station. I'm sure they would take pride in maintaining it. And in fact, they were being called in to adjust it whenever it needed over at the Civic Center. This way it would be right on their property, and it would be no big deal to maintain it. And I'm thinking once it's there, it would stay there, but who knows?
Well, we have to thank you for your thought and for your generous support.
I did make sure they put a plaque on the clock at the Civic Center because a lot of people had no idea where it came from. That was something that happened a while ago, and I noticed they did save the plaque, so hopefully it'll go back on the new tower, wherever it winds up being.
Well, it's not only wonderful for the fire department, but when you're talking Destination Medical Center, and how at the same time you preserve the history,
Sure.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
You can combine all those things in one. All right, the big sing. We've only got 3 minutes left,
Okay.
Alan, and it's on April 11th.
Which is a week from this coming Saturday at 7 o'clock. It's in the Mayo Civic Center Arena. There will be just short of 300 male voices singing collectively, as well as 6 individual choruses singing. You can get tickets at the Mayo Civic Center box office from any of the male chorus members. You can call 507-990-1597. That number is on our website, which is rochestermailchorus.com. There are posters all over the place. There are ads in the Post Bulletin. It's going to be on KTTC. It's going to be on several radio stations. It's going to be on the cover of Rochester Visitor. So there's all kinds of ways to find out about it. If you have internet access, rochestermailchorus.com is a good place to look.
$20 in advance.
The tickets are
for preferred seating.
$20 for preferred seating, which is the center section, and then $15 general admission.
Okay.
The tickets are $5 more at the door, so it behooves
Okay.
you to buy them in advance. It should be a fun time. We haven't done it in 10 years, and we're really looking forward. Personally, I'm looking forward to being over because I'm exhausted from
It's
promoting
called
it.
the Whoop Jamboree.
Whoop Jamboree is
What
kind
does
of
that mean?
the theme. It's one of the songs we'll be doing. It's actually a sea shanty. It's a work song. Back when people did a lot of manual labor, like on the railroad or on ships, pulling up the anchor, they were rhythmic songs that they could sing as they worked to kind of motivate them.
Yeah.
And Whoop Jamboree is one of those songs.
Or one of the songs.
Right, one of the approximate.
Tell us a couple of the songs you're going to sing.
Oh, goodness. Let me see here. I got a list.
You do.
Bring Him Home from Les Miserables.
Oh, that's so gorgeous.
One of the choruses is going to do Moon River. There are a number of light classical songs, of course, the national anthem. A song that our director really likes, that actually the lyrics are from Charles Dickens, and the song is Things That Never Die. Fascinating Rhythm is one that's really fun.
I didn't even know there were words to that.
There are, yeah. That's a George Gershwin song.
Yep, it is.
And of course, Whoop Jamboree. There's a song named Homeland that's very, very pretty, a patriotic song, and quite a few others that they may not know by name but would recognize when they hear them. One of the choruses is doing a tribute to the armed services, which should be really good.
You have a closing comment? You want to tell people why they should come and listen to these great, enthusiastic, fun-loving singers?
Please do. And I should have mentioned that Robin Wolfram from KTTC is going to be the Master of Ceremonies, if I haven't already, and we're really looking forward to that. Do come.
Ellen Calavano, for all the things you do for this community, thank you very much, and thank you for telling us about the Big Sing, which is April 11th. And thank you, our viewers, for being with us tonight. We'll be with you next week, same time, same channel, 181. In the meantime, have a good week and have a good night.